Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwan Jai. Akshar Purushottam Maharaj Jai. Radha Krishna Devani Jai. Siyavar Ramachandra Bhagwan Jai. Guru Hari Pramukh Swami Maharaj Jai. In the divine presence of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, in the equally divine presence of my Guru Hari Pramukh Swami Maharaj, in the presence of revered saints and all the friends who have gathered here this evening, beginning with Shri Mukesh Bhai Patel. If anybody has convinced me into this marriage, he is good for arranged marriages. We have been a brahmachari all our lives. And the imagination and the power of Mukesh Bhai. And at the same time, somebody whom I have known for long. And I also feel equally proud of recognizing Shri Pranav Adani. I have known him from young. Please rise up and we'll welcome you to begin this entire space. He has taken the reins of AMA for the next 2 years. And so many other people like Sunil Bhai Shah. And there are faces that I remember in my heart like Dhaval Bhai, Kanabar, Sunil Bhai Talati. So many. And one thing that once sweeps you off your feet in AMA is we have traveled far and wide. Right from international conference to simple conferences and discussions and places of thinking. But if there is anywhere where an auditorium is packed not just by an audience, but by attention, anticipation and affection, it's here at the AMA. And I also want to share with you first, I bow down and seek the blessings of all the great speakers and enlightened sadhus and enlightened people who shall be sharing their enlightened knowledge with you throughout this week. I first reverently bow down to them as well. The topic of my talk is conflict management, insights from the Ramayana. Just as Mukesh Bhai, if anything goes wrong, it's his fault. He just got me into this starting, it wasn't there. Once, in a train, an old man was reading the Ramayana. And at the next station, a young newly wedded couple boarded the train. Seeing the old man totally absorbed in the Ramayana, the young man first sneered, joked, mocked. And he said, "Old man, Ramayana is too old for today. Why are you wasting your time? It's totally irrelevant." The old man did not heed, he continued to read. At the next station, the young couple, totally energetic, they disembarked for some refreshments on the platform. Once the train started, the young man rushed and boarded the train. To his shock and horror, he had forgotten his wife on the platform, newly wedded. Teething problems. He forgot his wife on the platform and he was fuming, frustrated. The only thing he could do was to pull the chain, bring the train to a stop. And after all this conflict that had been created, when they came back into the compartment, the old man raised his head and said, "Young man, if you had been reading the Ramayana, this little conflict would never have happened. Ram always kept Sita first." But a fellow traveler, he was wiser. He said, "Sir, if he kept his wife first, he would never have 90% of conflicts in his life." All well and good. Our conflicts sometimes begin with who is first, who is last. Sometimes me and you. Sometimes yours and mine. Sometimes now or never. If anybody who is present in this hall, and if he has this feeling that tonight I'm going to discover a magical formula that will resolve all conflicts of my life, I ask them to leave and go back home. Only the dead have no conflict. So long as we breathe, conflicts will breed. They will surround us, they will abound. Sometimes they'll beat us black and blue, perforate our lives. Sometimes they'll decorate us gold and red. But conflicts are there. And I also want to tell you, the fact that you exist. There are constantly white cells in conflict with germs and pathogens in millions and micromillions. That's what gives you the ability to smile. Because there is conflict going on at every micro level. First, man was in conflict with animals. Now we have moved into societies, we are in conflict with man. And when our things don't go well, we are in conflict with God. And when everybody is not there, we are in conflict with ourselves. Buddha has said that for every krati, there are 7 mind moments. 1 krati is 1/1,000,000th of a second. That means every second, your mind is capable of thinking 21 trillion thoughts. તોય આપણ લાગે કલાક સુધી કંઈ સૂચતું નથી લે. That's conflict, I'll tell you that. But I want to tell you that they say all these thoughts are conflicting and they're competing, and then the one that emerges out as the winner is the thought that you possess and you identify with. Conflicts are happening left, right, and center. And we must learn to adapt. Sometimes adjust. Sometimes overcome. Sometimes avoid. And sometimes just to accept and live with them. The secrets that we want to know is, first, we must try and understand what do you and me we mean by conflict. The moment I use the word conflict, we suddenly think of, the Cuban conflict, or the Syrian conflict, or the Kashmir conflict. All this, the word conflict is normally associated either with a quarrel, a fight, or a war. But it's not these huge things. These are the ultimate aberrations of life. Ultimate aberrations. There are the smaller things which eat our mind away, which gnaw at the vitals of our life. They could be as simple as, I'll just give you a classic example. Perhaps the big diseases like TB, cancer and AIDS don't bother you now. But maybe the smaller ones like 24-hour fatigue, or you have a constant headache, or you have a humming in your ear, or some people are lucky to have 24-hour acidity. They get used to it. Things like acidity, disease spells, headache, and fatigue, they kill the quality of your life more than one-time TB. The conflicts that really harass us, and we should sort them out first, would be the moral dilemmas, the social confusions, the career contradictions, spiritual dead ends, emotional blackouts. These are the things that really disturb the quality of our life. And what we want to discuss today is how can we manage them. The normal Joe on the street, we would just simply manage either, most people manage conflicts with aggression. Yeah, I'll give you a very simple day-to-day classic example. Somebody told me, when the electricity goes off at night, it's hot, the first thing that people do is take something like a hand fan, and try and solve the conflict with a little air, hoping the lights come back. Then after 5-10 minutes, they take off their shirt, chaddi banyan dhari, they take off their shirt, and they hope that things will cool off, conflicts will be solved. I have heard, I have not seen, I have heard in Delhi, after 10 minutes of, just trying to relax with the lights off, we spent about 20-25 minutes swearing at the electricity board, then the laws, then the government, and everything bad you can remember. We are trying to let off our steam. Okay? Then in Delhi they have said sometimes the people get so frustrated they go to the streets, stop the cars, and they end up in fights with travelers and drivers because the electricity is not there. Did any of this stuff solve the conflict? No. Aggression just creates more conflict. Aggression. In our Sampradaya, Swaminathan Sampradaya, there is a simple way. Even when we are having assemblies of 100,000 or 200,000 people, lights, they just go. So what does the speaker do? He starts the dhun, Swami Narayan. And what do the 100,000 people do? They follow the dhun. For 20 minutes, there's no swearing, no worries, till the lights come. And I think that's a better way, because in our country, only God can help when the lights go. It's perhaps a better way. But aggression is the path most people take, and that is not the path. The second is submission. Man works in extremes. Submission, one famous leader, he said that, look, I have no conflict with my wife at all. She does what she wants, and I do what she wants. You have better experience than me, right? That's the easiest way of solving conflict. Okay? Because I'm trying to tell you, but when we submit totally and every day, it creates resentment. It creates a deep hurt that freezes. It creates abnormalities. And we begin to suffer. Yes, you have submitted, you have solved the conflict, but you suffer. The third way is evasion. Majority of the people would feel delay decisions, evade, avoid meetings. To that extent that such people start avoiding people, crowds. They also avoid social events. And they isolate themselves so much that they sink in a deep depression from which they cannot come out. First is aggression, that's not the path. Submission may not be the path. Evasion is never the path. The fourth, which we want to discuss this evening, is positive action. There may be a conflict. Can you see some positivity in it and then chart the route? Before you take a positive action, your goal must be fixed, whether you want a spiritual end or a material end. Whether you want peace or you want the prize. Once you decide the end, that's what will tell you or shape what sort of a approach you should make. Sometimes, to solve a conflict, you need to conquer it. Sometimes, you need to compete. Sometimes, you need to collaborate. Sometimes, you need to compromise. And many times, you need to concede, just let go and walk out. These paths will only be decided if you have the end in mind which is clear. If it's your wife and you think, yeah, I'll conquer her and conflict, you lose her. If he's your son and you think, okay, I can do this with my employees, you fine him, he'll run away. You need to do first what you want to do at the end, and that's how the path of conflict is decided. And that's most important. Once we learn to do that, we will be able to find out how to move ahead. Simple example of a positive action. Nowadays, as Mukesh Bhai mentioned, I'm sorry I'm banking on him, but he mentioned that once if the flights are full and they're early, they take off early. Yeah? But then sometimes they have to circle half an hour in the air as well to land. We won't do it tonight, don't worry. But still, I also want to point out that sometimes flights are late. And how do you and me, we behave when flights are late? Put your hand on your heart. Suddenly you become the owner not of just the plane. You are just owner of a little seat for 1 hour. You become the owner of not just the plane but the entire industry. And you become the representative of all the passengers in the world who have been hurt or divorced. You magnify yourself so much. And what happened, I remember there's an incident. Flight, even the flight people are very expert. They only announce delays 10 minutes at a time. And then you lose your cool. He said, if you had told us, I could have gone back for a cup of coffee. I would have done so many things, which you wouldn't have done anyway. You are just imagining. But anyway, because you want to pick a fight, you'll do anything. One man, he was fuming at the counter because the flight was late. And the poor attendant on the counter has no control over the fight. And he's swearing at the person that, I'm late, you've ruined my day, I'm going to sue you. What's your name? He or she's just the counter person. She doesn't know anything. And this guy was totally mad, gone berserk, swearing at them. He said, I'm going to take the entire company down and I'll see how the plane moves. Actually, he wanted the plane to move. Then he says, I'll see how he's going to move. You know what happens? You lose control over your thoughts, your senses, your words. You just sink deep and deep. Then what happens? Another gentleman arrives. And he is also in the same flight. And that guy says, sir, the flight has been delayed by 1 hour. The man said, super, great. Now this guy starts having a go at this guy. Why do you say super, great? Look. He says, but super, great. The flight is delayed, fine. He said, what do you mean fine? He said, there can be only 3 reasons why the flight could be delayed. First, there may be a technical problem. I don't want to be in a plane that has a technical problem. Either the weather is bad. I don't want to be at 30,000 feet up in the air if the weather is bad. And third, if the pilot has not arrived. I don't want somebody else flying the plane if the pilot has not arrived. I'd rather wait an hour and reach safely than jump on and not reach at all. I want to tell you, if you understand, you will be able to find a positive outcome, a positive passage to the conflicts that you face. And, as Mukesh Bhai said, I cannot overemphasize the fact. If there is any culture out there that has a host and a wealth and a treasure house of wisdom to help you go through conflict, it is the wisdom of Indian culture. No other culture has a bank of such wisdom in the world. And of all the scriptures, one beautiful scripture that we have been gifted for eons, it is the Ramayana. The Ramayana, why I say it has credibility in conflict? I want to ask you, is there anyone in this hall who was born as a king and reduced to a beggar? Is there anyone who has been banished by his father and manipulated by his mother? Is there anyone who just after getting married, his wife was kidnapped for years and decades? Is there anyone who was shunned by society, who had to take help from animals to do his deed? Is there anyone who has undergone so many conflicts without shedding a tear? Lord Ram was that person. If you are here to tell me, I don't want conflict, the path of Ram, Ramasya ayanam iti Ramayanam. The path of Ram is a path full of conflicts in which Ram manages to remain cool, calm and composed. If anyone can teach you how to remain cool, calm and composed in a hurricane of conflicts, it is through the Ramayana. But Ramayana, if you read it, it's not going to help. If you listen to the kathas regularly, it can help, but it's not enough. Even if you memorize it, the word insight, which has been introduced by the people who selected the lecture series, insight, until you have an insight, it does not bring a change to you. For thousands of years, people have seen the apple fall. Only Newton got an insight. Who in this hall has not seen an old man, an ill man, a dead man, and a sannyasi? You can see us right now. But nobody has got the insight like Buddha. He saw the same things that we see every day. Still, we don't get that insight. What did Darwin do? Darwin has seen only the things we see. Perhaps a little child now, through the help of Discovery Channel, sees more creatures, more insects, more forms of animals, more everything vividly. Still, he cannot come up with the idea of evolution. Insight. The power of insight is such, just as the life of Buddha transformed, just as science transformed because of the insight of Newton, just as beliefs started taking different forms because of the so-called, maybe positive or negative, insight of Darwin. If you get an insight from the Ramayana, it will have the power to redraw your life, redesign and repaint it. And most importantly, once we have that power, it's going to make a difference. So for positive action, how to make your way through conflicts, the first thing that Ramayana teaches us, the entire lecture will be summarized in just 8 words at the end. So remain calm. Don't create conflicts in your mind to remember anything. The entire lecture, I'll summarize it in just 8 words, and I guarantee when you go home with these 8 words, you will know the entire lecture. The first thing that Ramayana teaches us, that majority of our conflicts are illusionary and imaginary. So first, identify. Identify your conflicts. Because if you don't identify your conflicts, imagination and exaggeration will play havoc. The classic example is after Hanuman is caught by Ravan and his tail is set on fire as public humiliation. Hanuman starts jumping around. He sets the entire Lanka on fire. To him it becomes a game. And the entire Lanka from every end is blazing. Feeling a sense of achievement, Hanuman goes to the shores of the seas. He's about to douse his tail. And when he turns back, he sees the entire Lanka. The flames are so high, they are stabbing the skies. That's when Hanuman suddenly sinks into a darkness of guilt. He starts thinking, oh my God, the whole of Lanka is burning. And what about Sita? What a fool am I? I should have first carried Sita with me, then set Lanka on fire. My Sita, Ram's Sita, she's somewhere in the Lanka and she is going to die in the flames. Overcome by this thinking, Hanuman then begins to imagine, if Sita dies, Ram will die. If Ram dies, Lakshman will kill himself. If Lakshman and Ram are no more, Bharat will end his life. The whole of Ayodhya will run helter-skelter without a head. The entire blame and guilt will come to the clan of the Vanaras. I am responsible for total destruction. Before that happens, let me kill myself. Hanuman becomes suicidal straight after achieving one of the biggest tasks of his life. It is known sometimes when you buy a big house, then you become suicidal. How do I run it, manage it? Sometimes if I give you a great car like Rolls-Royce, then you start wondering, conflicts begin. Then how do I upkeep it? Sometimes if you get married into a very rich house, conflicts begin. How do I upkeep? So Hanuman suddenly is overcome by guilt. He's about to end his life, and one thought dawns in his mind. One thought. He thinks, let me go and check. Let me go and check. Where is Sita? When he goes, Sita is there in Ashok Vatika, smiling and happy. Hanuman goes, oh my God, Sita Devi, you're alive. The fire has not done anything to you. Sita says, can't you remember that your tail was burning while your body was not? I had prayed to the devas of Agni that protect, O Hanuman. If my prayers could protect you, surely they would protect me. That's when Hanuman changes his mind. The first insight I want to take from the Ramayana would be, stop imagining and exaggerating your problems. Stop imagining. We tend to imagine so many things which are not there. And when you stop imagining, then most of your conflicts will disappear. And I really want to tell you, this ability to check, recheck, cross-check, and double-check. Samjhi kya? When you hear, you say, that guy hates me. Check out. Don't imagine that he hates you. He might hate you for a day, but he doesn't hate you for life. We tend to take one experience and stretch it for life. I am just here to tell you that get out from these assumptions, imagination, check, recheck, cross-check, and double-check. The former Chief of Staff, Colin Powell, US Chief of Staff, during the Gulf War, he has written in his autobiography, he always had this habit of check, recheck, and double-check. I have put in the word cross-check, okay? Ahmedabadi ne? So he said, I always had this habit of check, recheck, and cross-check, double-check. He said he was a paratrooper. And they were in a huge practice where every paratrooper had to jump every second from the plane. Every second, one. He was just 4 seconds away from his jump. And because of his habit of rechecking, he found that his buckle of the parachute was undone. If he hadn't done the rechecking, he said, I would have been dead long ago. Even in a conflict, don't imagine or exaggerate. Just go out and check and you will find out. The second most important thing that we learn from the Ramayana is first identify the conflict. Don't imagine or exaggerate. Second, simplify it. A little thing could be true, but then we add assumptions and perceptions and make it complicated. Some people have a habit of making everything complicated. Everything complicated. I can really make things complicated right now for you. I don't want to do it because I'm here to solve the conflicts, not to raise the conflicts. But I'm just trying to say, we can make everything complicated. All I have to announce here, there is one person here with that infectious disease, SARS, who is in this hall. Think you complicated? All I'm trying to tell you, it's very important. When we understand this, that the most important thing is to simplify. We can only simplify things once we get an insight. I'll give you a classy example. That we were in the Middle East just recently. I read in the Arabic Middle Eastern books about the Kohinoor. And they said that the Kohinoor in India, what was the worth of the Kohinoor? Take 5 stones. Throw one stone in the east as far as you can. The other on the west as far as you can. One in the north as far as you can. One in the south as far as you can. And take the 5th one. Throw it in the sky. Toss it as high as you can. The entire space that you have, fill them with the best diamonds in the world. Still, they would not match the worth of the Kohinoor. Now, from this hole, if I walk down and just slip in your hand the Kohinoor diamond, don't think I'm imagining. Okay? I'm being serious. If I walk down and just slip into your hand the Kohinoor diamond, now what happens? પહેલા તો તમે એકદમ ટાઈટ પકડો, પછી હાથ પકડીને પાછો હાથ ખિસ્સામાં નાખો. Double protection. Okay? So the first thing you'll have in your mind is, Swami, I need to get up. I need to go. Why? For safekeeping. Where do I keep it? Then I'll tell you, okay, look, Mukesh Bhai, તમને જ લઈએ ને target. You're a tax consultant, you save money. So I'll ask you, okay, Mukesh Bhai, do me one favor. Just keep it with you. The assembly is just 1.5 hours. Just keep it with you. You'll say, no, but Swami, I'm a very forgetful guy. I forget my glasses, my pens. I forget my car keys. Sometimes I forget my sandals. I forget so many things. What if I forget? I need to go and put it safe. The first thing that happens to you is you begin to lose faith in your own self. So I'll say, you get up, go and give this to your wife. She can kiss. You'll say, nah, she's even more forgetful than me. She forgets my name. So you'll begin to lose faith in your family members. It's the Kohinoor. Then I'll say, Mukesh Bhai, Pranav Bhai બાજુમાં જ બેઠા છે. Give it to him to keep. You know him for so long. He's not going to take it away. But it's the Kohinoor. He's my friend, but the Kohinoor remains with me. Then I'll say, okay, do me one thing. You begin to lose faith and trust in your own friends. Then I say, go home and put it in some safe place in your own home. You say, no, my home is not safe enough. You've been sleeping in it for 30 years. All your documents, your marriage things, garena, badhu ત્યાં છે. And suddenly for the Kohinoor, the home is not safe enough. You begin to lose faith in your own home. Then I'll say, go and put it in one international bank. You say, no way. Banks to collapse થાય જ છે. They go every now and then. Then I say, okay, forget about that. I said, just give it to me. I'll give it back after 1.5 hours. What if you change your mind? બીજાને આપી દો તો? I'm just trying to tell you one simple thing. It's all imaginary. Undeserved wealth. Like undeserved pain creates conflict. Even undeserved wealth creates conflict. But then I give you an insight that this diamond that I've given you is a fake. Pati gain conflict shanti gain. The entire cloud and web that has been created around your mind, and suddenly your friends become friends, or the banks become good, the house becomes good, your wife becomes good, you become good, and I become good. What is an insight? Most of the conflicts in the world are there, but majority are assumed. That's what I want to tell you. And they are dependent on the perceptions we create. The Ramayana comes in with a great insight. Just before the war, all the Vanaras are waiting on the shores, and suddenly they see Vibhishan. Vibhishan is there, and he's then flying across the skies towards the camp of Ram. All the Vanaras, including Sugriv, they start saying he's the Rakshas, the brother of Ravan. He's evil, he's a spy, he has come to destroy us. Don't trust him, kill him, kill him, kill him. I'm just summarizing pages of the shlokas. And Ram says, why are you so worried? Why are you in such a big conflict? The war hasn't begun. It already had in their minds. Spy, kill him. Ram says, wait, when you come down, when he talks to Vibhishan, Vibhishan says that I have come not as an enemy, I have come as a friend. A person became an enemy just because one thing was true. He was the brother of Ravan. But the rest were simple assumptions. What we tend to do with our lives, if somebody has cheated you in one family, we will brand the entire family કે આ તો બધા છે ને જૂઠાની ઓલાદ છે લે. અને કે તો બાપ દાદા વખતથી આવે. If you have met their બાપ દાદા. Look at our assumptions. If somebody falls, we think their entire clan is like that. We tend to first brand and stamp. And I tell you, that's not the way. Because of one person, because of your one experience, don't complicate a conflict. Another classic example from the Ramayana is when Indrajit, Ram sends his own son Indrajit into a war. Indrajit had the power of Mayajad. He could become invisible. He created fogs and clouds, and he created darkness. Then within lightning, false lightning, he would shower arrows. He had almost wounded both Ram and Lakshman, totally bleeding. Vanaras in thousands were dead. And he was always invisible. In war in those times, if the opponent is invisible, you can't fight him. If the opponent is leaving the battleground, you can't fight him. If the opponent has surrendered, you can't kill him or fight him. Here Indrajit would fire and then become invisible. Lakshman, he became so exasperated. He was so tired that he told Ram, this is enough. This guy, totally as an outlaw, he's a Rakshas, an evil man. He's breaking all the laws of war. And he's killing us left, right and center. He picks up the Brahmastra. And Ram looks at him and says, why? He said, I can't see him. The only way I can do is to release the Brahmastra and say, kill all the Rakshasas on this earth. એટલે એને શોધીને આવી જાય ને વગેરે વગેરેમાં. Kill all. So this Brahmastra will locate where Indrajit is and kill him. That's where Ram says, and I believe, look at the power. He says, Naikasya heto rakshansi pruthivyam hantum arhasi. He says, Na ekasya hetuhu. Just because one Rakshas is bad, you can't destroy the entire clan of Rakshasis on this earth. Is it fair, Lakshman? He did not allow Lakshman to brand the entire clan. Just because one person from the family is bad, don't brand them. Just because somebody was angry at you now, we'll say, angry man, just leave him. I ask you, do you become angry? Say yes or no. Why are you so quiet? Be honest. Okay? You become angry. Now my second question is, if you become angry once, are you angry 24 hours? Then why do you assume the other person is a 24-hour volcano because he was angry once? Don't assume. Your relations with your children, your wife, your people, your elders will change if you first get away from imagination, exaggeration, assumption, perception. So first, identify. Second, simplify a conflict. The fact when you simplify, you will get away from generalizations. When Akshardham was attacked, 2 Islamic terrorists, we were there. And we also saw that after the killing, they did a namaz. It's a fact. But Pramukh Swami never pointed the blame at any community, any culture. Otherwise, we would have not been able to go to Bahrain and meet the king of Bahrain. You can't keep this in your heart. You need to move away. Even in your own family, you might have had some issues. They were then. You need to move away from assumptions and permanent branding and stamping. When you move ahead, he teaches you the secrets of life. I remember once we were traveling from Gandhinagar to Gozaria. It was the by-lane. Pramukh Swami's car was behind us. We were escorting him, Pujya Brahmavihari Swami and myself. And suddenly on the road, Pramukh Swami stopped the car. Normally this doesn't happen. Once it had happened when he had a heart attack. The car was stopped. And suddenly we were shocked that, is anything wrong? What's happened? We ran to his car. He lowered his window. And from the window, he produced a very simple chabarki and an ani note, which was torn from a very simple spiral book. Somebody had written 4 or 5 words, not even a perfect sentence, Pujya Bapa. And he had signed it. He's somebody from Ahmedabad. He had signed it. So Swami stopped the car. I thought it was something really important, kadach ke United Nations Declaration or something like that, right? Pramukh Swami produced this small chabarki from the car. He gave it to my hand. And Swami said, Swami ke aane kaik prashna છે. મેં કીધું બાપા પણ આટલો અગત્યનો છે કે અહીંયા આગળ રોડની વચ્ચે, in the middle of the road? સ્વામી કે એને લખ્યું છે. He had written કે બાપા મારો છોકરો ભણતો નથી, તો મદદ કરવા વિનંતી લે. What do you do? So I read the name, and I read the name of the writer, and I said, Bapa, this guy, મેં કહ્યું બાપા આ ક્રેકો છે, આ ગાંડો માણસ છે. સ્વામી કે કેમ? મેં કહ્યું સ્વામી, once આ જ માણસ હું ઓળખું છું કે એ અને મને, he phoned me રાતના 2 વાગે from ગીતા મંદિર bus station, and he told me કે ચારે બાજુ ઘણી બસો છે, હું કઈ બસમાં ચડું લે? 2 વાગે રાતે. અને મેં કીધું કે આ તો હું બહુ નાનો પ્રસંગ કહું છું. I have a list of prasangs of this fellow. મેં કીધું બાપા આ માણસ છે ને થોડો ક્રેકો છે. અને બીજું, I was also hurt. You're writing to Pramukh Swami, it's a small chabarki. It's not even a request, it's like an order. You know, do this for my little kid who is not studying, okay? And I also know the background of his mind, કે he's almost crack. મેં કીધું બાપા આ માણસ છે ને ક્રેકો ગાંડો છે. You know what Pramukh Swami said? સાંઈ કે દીકરો ગાંડો છે? મેં કહ્યું કે ના બાપા. સાંઈ કે take care of him. And after 11 years, we made arrangements for him to study better. After 11 years, when I was in Canada, 2 years back, that kid came up to me as a qualified engineer earning more than $120,000 because of one chabarki. I had branded his entire family as Kreko. Pramukh Swami got rid of that branding from my mind. Stop branding and your conflicts will disappear. So, first, identify. Second, simplify. Third, sometimes we create conflicts because of our own nature and our own problems, so rectify. Sita could have easily avoided this entire conflict by remaining within the Lakshman Rekha. I am not pinning blame on her because it's all God arranged and Ram wanted it like this and that, fine. Okay, we're not putting any, but I'm saying there is a Lakshman Rekha. There is a line of limit in everything you do and everything you think. You know, contrastingly, even the good things have a limit. You love some food, but if you cross the limit, the nourishment becomes your annulment. Because you can't even eat or do things that you love a lot. You love the water. If you remain in water for 24 hours, શું થાય? Skin ne? It's not ready for it. Don't cross the limit. Even jokes. You love jokes. But you know many times when you cross the limit, even your best friends are hurt. And you don't know when it started hurting. Because he's still laughing and he's still hurting. Everything in life, even the good things have a limit, then definitely the bad things do. Don't cross your emotional, moral or social limits. Even if a religious person tells you to do it, there are limits that God has described. And it's very important that you need to be aware of your social, emotional and spiritual limits and responsibilities. I'll give you an example. One man from London, he came and met Pramukh Swami. And his business partner was his best friend. He was also a satsangi. And he cheated him of almost £1 million or more pounds. And then he ran away to some other country. So this man, he came down to Swami Shri and he was telling him, Swami, please pray for me. Swami had blessed him. And then he came up with a plan. And I want to tell you in public because this is very important. He said, Swami, I have met some people who say that just give us 5% of what you have lost. Okay? Extortion. 5% of what you have lost, we will bring everything back with interest. He asked Swami. Do you know what Pramukh Swami said? Nitinu kam pan anitithi na thai. For the sake of law, don't become an outlaw. There is a limit. Let it go. And today I can see both of them have become, after 22 years, once again the best of friends. Imagine. We are taught by the Ramayana, identify, simplify, rectify. Don't start blaming others because you created the conflict. The conflict can be solved or rectified. The fourth is magnify. Sometimes you're there and you feel you can't handle it on your own. Many times you'll feel it. Okay, Swami, my kids, I can't handle them on my own. Or this job assignment is too big. Even you will be getting such conflicts. A huge project, Australia, I hope is going well, right? Okay. So if suddenly you start thinking that I've just started a new venture and it's just too big for me. You've stepped into some new shoes and career and suddenly you feel I can't handle it. Even a new fresh marriage and you feel it's difficult. You know, I'll tell you. The Ramayana says that when Hanuman was a young little kid, he was full of energy, the son of Vayu, the god of wind. And once he decided that the sun seemed like a fruit, that I'll swallow the fruit, and he's flying, flying, flying. Indra becomes disturbed. The gods become disturbed. The little kid is going right to the sun. If he takes the sun, there will be chaos on this earth. So Indra releases his weapon. Hanuman falls to the ground. Brahma comes to the rescue. And the wind goes on strike because it's his son that's disturbed. The whole cosmos is in a conflict. For what? Because of one little kid. Okay? Whole cosmos is in conflict. Tamara garma, tamaro dikro jo bhagi jaye ne, the whole cosmos comes into a conflict. I'm just trying to tell you, it may be a small thing. The whole cosmos turns into a conflict. What happens? The gods get together and they say, this child is blessed with the best and the finest strength. Unimaginable powers. Let it be. But curse him, that he will never be able to remember his powers himself until someone tells him. Okay? So in a way, that curse of Hanuman has befallen all of us. The amazing powers that lie within your heart, within your periphery, even you are not aware of it. Sunil Bhai, could you have ever imagined that you could have overcome the disease that you had? Was it not terminal? 1 in a million? But you overcame it? Fine. I'm trying to tell you, sometimes we succumb. What happened? That when all the Vanavars were deciding that who will jump across the ocean, who will cross, and everybody said, I can just jump 10 yojans, 20 yojans, 40, 50, 60. Jamwan said, I can do 90. The sea was 100 yojans. Hanuman was sitting quietly, morose, sad. And that's when Jamwan comes up to Hanuman. He said, get up, you are the son of the wind god. Vayudevata. Hanuman says, I know. He said, it is within you. At a time you are going to jump to the sun. Forget about Lanka. Just go. That's when Hanuman becomes bigger, bigger, bigger. And he takes the leap. In our lives, sometimes we need friends which are positive. The way to solve your conflicts, keep a friend circle which is positive. Not those who undermine you. Not those who demotivate you. You need to have a friend circle through their words, prodding. They will bring out the latent energies in you, and perhaps one of the greatest and the deepest friend could be a true sadhu. He has no selfish interest in you, and he can ask you to rise And he can ask you to perform tasks which you cannot. I'll take you into a true story. And be honest, would you do this if you are in this situation? If we are here, if there is bombing going on just in the IIM, I'm not talking about blast, but shelling, rockets. Those destruction, if that is being destroyed, if half of AMA is already under fire, okay, war, what would you do? I'll give you an example. The year was 2006. And in that, there was a war going on between Israel and the Hezbollahs. The place was Lebanon. One of our devotees, his name is Nitin Bhai Gadia. And Nitin Bhai Gadia, he is the general manager of a glass factory owned by the Madhwanis. And he was in charge of this Lebanon, the valley, the factory. He described that the shelling, the bombings were just 20 meters from him. His entire factory was being destroyed, totally gone. Manu Bhai and all their people, they had made a special plane for the safe passage of Nitin Bhai. That's when he came under a conflict, not just a war, there was a moral conflict. There were 550 people working under him, of all different religions, or all different ages, or all different countries. Nitin Bhai was in a conflict because nobody could come into the country and nobody could get out. It's a war. War માં કે તમારે passengers plane ઉડતા ના હોય, hello, hi, ને tourists ફરતા. It's not possible. It was impossible to get out unless he got out in the safe passage plane. He called Pramukh Swami. He said, Swami, what should I do? I'm in a big conflict. Pramukh Swami said, કે તમારામાં ભગવાનની દયાથી શક્તિ છે. મહેનત કરો. અને છેલ્લામાં છેલ્લો ઝાડુ વાળનારો પણ પ્લેનમાં બેસીને સલામત થાય પછી નીકળજો. Nitin Bhai, yesterday I called him, he's in the Middle East. He said, I was so overcome, I could never manage. But I stayed up for 3 nights and 3 days and made sure that all 550 people left while we were being bombed from all around. Bombs were going on 10, 20 meters from across where I was. And still I could manage this conflict because Pramukh Swami said that I was bigger than what I was. When you come to a moral conflict, you need the guidance of making you feel bigger than what you are. Only then you will overcome that conflict. નહીં થઈ શકે. આપણને લાગે આવું જ હોય, સ્વામી બધા લે જ, કરે જ. I'm saying you have to make yourself bigger. So first, then the most important part is magnify. The fifth part, which I believe, sometimes you may as an individual magnify yourself with so much strength and like support yourself and you become bigger than you are. But sometimes there are conflicts which are even much bigger to handle, even if after you are big enough. Suppose I make you the Prime Minister. Can you run the country on your own? Oh, come on. Don't take it seriously. But the higher you go, the more dispensable you become. ફેક્ટરીમાં ઇલેક્ટ્રિશિયન ના હોય ને ફેક્ટરી બંધ થઈ જાય, બોસ ના હોય ને તો ચાલે. Think about it when you go home. The higher you go, you feel you are more powerful, but you are always dispensable. The lower you are, the more indispensable you become. So, even if you become the president or the prime minister, do you think you can run the country on your own? No. So, the fifth thing that Ramayana teaches us to solve any conflict is to unify. How can we unify our energies? And that's when the energies of God will descend. The building of the bridge. Ram knew, Jatayu had already told Ram that Ravana has taken Sita to the south. And Ram asked so many people, still he sent messengers in all 4 directions of India. Why? He wanted the opinion and the good feeling and the support and the prayers of the entire nation for his deed. There may be people who help you, there may be people who support you, there may be people who just advise you, there may be people who wish you well, there may be people who just pray for you, or there may be people who just don't disturb you. That's a seva. It's a big seva, Just let you be. There may be people who just don't disturb you. All this is unified, and that's how Ram Bhagavan could create the bridge. You can only create the larger bridge if you build bridges amongst yourself. Once you build bridges, then you create the larger bridge. Unify. When you unify, no conflict is big enough to disturb you. I'll give you a classic example. When we were building the Delhi Akshardham, Amrut Bhai Sompura, he's the fatherly figure. He was about 80-85 years old at that time. After we were almost completed the entire Akshardham in less than 5 years, he came up to see Akshardham. He's the Sompura. His forefathers had designed and helped in the Taj, Sompura tradition. Under the dome, he started crying. We said, why? Why are you crying? He said, Swamiji, I'm a Nastic. I don't believe in God. I make temples of God, but I still don't believe in God. Great, right? Fine. Doesn't matter. So he said, I am a Nastic. I don't worship. I don't believe in God. But when I see the stone, the carving, according to my logic and logistics, just to quarry this much amount of stone and carve it, it would take 40 years just to do it. I just don't know how Pramukh Swami has done it in less than 5. So he said, in my language, if I had to term anybody as God, I would term him as the God of Shilp, Pramukh Swami. But you know what I want to tell you? You know how Akshardham was made? It wasn't made by individuals. It was made by a huge effort of hundreds of sadhus, thousands of volunteers, hundreds of thousands of good people like you. There were cultures who have helped. There have been countries like Germany, America, England, they have volunteered, like Czechoslovakia. They have volunteered free services. There have been people who have come forward and unified. And what Pramukh Swami often told us, I want to recount now. He said, if you think is beyond you, which we did, he said, Bhagavan ne agar rakhi, roj nu kaam roj karvu. Bhagavan ne agar rakhi, पर भगवान पर काम ना छोड़ू, समझी जाओ. भगवान ने अगर राखी, રોજનું કામ રોજ કરવું અને સંપ રાખશો તો દેવતાઓ આવીને કામ કરી જશે. If you keep God at the front, do your daily duty. And if you remain unified, gods will descend and finish your work. You know what I meant by gods would descend? You will be energized by energies that you and you think are humanly impossible, and collectively, in maths 2 plus 2 is 4. In energy, 2 plus 2 could be infinite. So we felt, now if you ask us that, Swami, can you finish Akshardham in 5 years? We can't. If you ask us, can you remake it? I'll tell you honestly, we can't, because I don't know how it happened. When Ramdevji Maharaj, he came with all his whole lot of followers in Akshardham. He has come many times. All his devotees got together and said that, Swamiji, let's get together. Because after they made a huge hospital and Ayurveda, all this hospital and university, they said, Swamiji, let's us also make an Akshardham like this. You know what Ramdevji Maharaj said? Okay, I'll show you an easier way. So what? Ki ye maan lo apna hi hai. I have come here to tell you Akshardham is yours, it is not Swaminarayan's. Because it is a composition of energy of millions of people who have prayed and well-wished. Only then unity can take you to the level of gods. Unity. So all these earthly conflicts will become almost null if you are unified. But then I want to also tell you, number 6. Sometimes even if you unite, some conflicts can't go. What if somebody dies? the loss of a dead person. Can you solve a conflict? Even if all of you wish. Sometimes divorce, I know it hurts. But you can't solve it because it's there, it's evident, it's there. So most important, there are conflicts in your and our lives which we can't solve because they are there. What happened to Lord Ram? Lord Ram was summoned to be coronated and then told to go to the forest. Renunciation. Now they were all unified. Dashrath in his heart did not want him to go. Kaushalya did not want him to go. Lakshman made a comment saying, my father and Kaikeyi were lost in lust. Anything decided in lust has no weightage at all. Lakshman said, don't listen to Dashrath, don't listen to Kaikeyi. Even the citizens of Ayodhya did not want Ram to go. But what did Ram do? He accepted the situation. Even there are conflicts which all of you don't want them to happen. But you have to accept. Only when you accept, you can pacify yourself. So number 6, pacify. When you accept, your entire system and thinking changes. Ram, when he's leaving Ayodhya, he says, thank you, Mother, for you have given me a kingdom far larger than Ayodhya. It is 100 times bigger than Ayodhya, the jungle. He accepted and went and never mourned, never complained. When you accept an inevitable situation that doesn't change, you overcome that conflict. Will you be crying every day, why am I losing hair? Accept it. Why the hair is graying? Accept it. I'm just trying to say, will you be ever... stop complaining about the things you can't change. Change the things that you can. There are so many things you and me cannot change. How Manmohan Singh should talk to Nawaz Sharif, you and me can't change. Nobody listens to us anyway. I'm just trying to tell you there are issues which are beyond us. We spend 90% of our life discussing conflicts of others. We are master solvers of other people's conflicts and not our own. All of us could be awarded Nobel Prize. If Kofi Annan had a problem in his home, that would be a problem. So I'm trying to tell you, change the things you can and accept the things you can't. The incident of Arthur Ashe, because I was there in England as a child, glued to the TV, watching the Wimbledon final. He was going to be perhaps the first African American, a colored person, to win the Wimbledon if he won. Arthur Ashe, he won the Wimbledon. Then he was such a nice, gentle person. He wasn't the routine sportsman who was high-headed, didn't listen to everybody. In 1983, from a fault of a hospital, bad blood transfusion, he contracted AIDS. Here he has a reason to sulk and blame. Main to kai nathi karyu. And he could sue the hospital, he could do everything. He contracted AIDS because of a bad blood transfusion. Where was his fault? So one of his fans wrote a letter to Arthur Ashe in 1983 saying, Arthur, you're the finest sportsman who has done us proud. Such a gentle guy. Why did God select you for such a bad disease? File it away. Why did God select you for such a bad disease? You know what Arthur Ashe wrote back? He writes that every year 50 million children learn to hold a tennis racket. 5 million learn to bounce a ball. 500,000 learn to play tennis. 50,000 try and enter competitive tennis. 5,000 enter the professional circuit. 500 get a chance in a Grand Slam. 50 get selected for the Wimbledon. 4 in the semis. 2 in the finals. And when I was holding the cup, I never asked God, why me? Why should I ask Him now? Think of all the good things that God has given you. You've never asked or questioned. Then why do you ask when you are faced with a conflict which you can't avoid? I am asking you that if you accept, then you will rise beyond you. Things can happen, and this is not a distance thing. I remember when we were celebrating the 100 years of BAPS centenary, more than 300,000 people were gathered. There was one devotee of ours, his name was Valmik Patel. He had searched for all the land, the hardest working devotee in the fleet of 2,000 volunteers we had at that time. He was going ahead, showing us the land, and before our eyes, he met with an accident. Such a severe accident, we took him to the hospital. I was there physically. Then the doctors were checking, they found that one of his piece of his bone was already flung out into the road. I personally went back searching for the little piece of bone. He said, if you can get that piece of bone back, his leg would be okay. It's too late. It was the highway. We couldn't find it. Valmik, he was there, he was hurt. He had first operation to get his bones and legs together. Pramukh Swami came and blessed him. Second operation, he became septic. Third operation, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth operation, ninth, 10th, 11th. He and his wife decided collectively that it is safer to cut my foot from the knee downwards. I would be rid of pain. I'll put a special foot and then we'll walk and we'll be happy. So he came down to the temple. It's so emotional for me. He found me because he was the one who helped us celebrate the 100 years. So he told me, he said, Swami, we are happy. I want to cut my foot. Here is he coming, not to blame, to take permission. Can I cut my foot? Not saying, why is my foot not getting better? I said, yeah, okay. He said, my wife wants it to be cut. He said, we want it to be cut. They were happy about it. I said, okay, you should cut it. I said, let's go and ask Pramukh Swami. So we phoned. Ishwar Swami was there. I was there. We were all decided, okay, cut your foot. 12 operations after 5 years of process, pain and hurt. And when we phoned Pramukh Swami, we said, કે બાપા વાલ્મીક ભાઈ, well, Swami knew him well. કે બાપા વાલ્મીક ભાઈ છે અને એને આ પ્રશ્ન છે તો હવે પગ કાપી નાખીએ. સાંઈ કે કેમ? I was going to say, it's his foot, technically. Saint came. Why does he want to cut it? Swami, nothing's happening. Swami said, I met a doctor in Jamnagar. Swami said, Jamnagar ma apane ek doctor, Swami ke eni પાસે જાય. I said, Swami, he's been to Mumbai, he's been to Delhi, he's been to Ahmedabad, he's been to everywhere. It'll be just one more operation. He wants to cut it. Swami kya jai aave. You know what has happened? The 12th operation, when he went, his entire leg was cured. But the strength of acceptance that this fellow had, I have never seen him dull, grinning, or difficult, or hateful, or hurtful. And I've asked him to come into this assembly, Valmik Bhai Ubha Thao. Now he can run and jump because he had faith. All I want to tell you, the easy way out from that conflict would have been to cut your leg. I am here to tell you, don't cut your leg. Bear it. Move ahead. Become stronger. You will find a way because God has designed a way for you. Most important. The 7th, which I want to tell you, something that you should learn from the Ramayana, is to nullify. Valmik, I've asked him to nullify it. Yes, you had a problem, you had a conflict. Don't keep remembering. I have seen people who come to us, Swamiji, please solve my problem. I said, what's your issue? He said, when I was young, my dad always favored my younger brother. He left nothing for me. I said, how long ago? He said, 25 years ago. I said, forget it. તું આ 25 વર્ષ જૂનું ડીપ ફ્રીઝમાં રાખીને ફ્રેશ ડિલિવર કરે છે. બીજાનું પેટ બગડશે. I'm just trying to tell you, just forget it. God has given you this ability to nullify the conflicts that you have solved. Just forget it. If you keep remembering, if a soldier comes from the war, that there were 100 bullets being fired, 100 bullets, and he would suffer from war neurosis. Forget it. All the bad things God has given you is, look, If we forget the good things so easily, why don't you forget the bad things? Let's be good about it. Let's be honest. Forget it. Nullify. If you can nullify, when Ravan dies, there's an issue of who cremates him. The first to oppose is Vibhishan. He said, no way, he's an evil man, he's a demon, he's a bad guy, he opposed God. I'm not going to do the final rites. I hate him. Ram holds his hand and says, Vibhishan, stop hurting and hating. He's dead. Forgive him. Stop hurting and hating all your life. Move ahead. Forgive him. Ram says, do your duty. Ram asks Vibhishan to do the final rites, and he says, just as you are my brother, Ravan becomes my brother. You should have the ability even to turn your enemies into your brothers. This is what the Ramayana teaches you. The best way to defeat an enemy is to turn him into your friend. He's no longer your enemy. I am trying to say Ramayana teaches us that ultimately you should clean the table, erase, sweep the floor clean. And this is possible. You know, Nelson Mandela, if anybody of you who goes to Cape Town, go to Robben Island, we have been. I've seen the cell, so small, so hurtful. It's just around, 6 feet by 4 feet or 3 feet. And Mandela, with his height, could not even stretch his feet or stand up tall. It is so shocking. For 28 years, Mandela was incarcerated in that place. And at that time, the person who presided over the Ministry of Justice, the person who was the Prime Minister for 16 years, John Worcester. 16 years, he was a white supremacist. He regularly made things that Mandela should be hanged, he should be killed. Mandela deserves death, nothing else. For 16 years, John Worcester was haranguing the end of Mandela, who was suffering. You're in the prison with no hope of getting out. Constantly, every day, it appears in the newspaper, he should be killed, killed, killed. Other people deciding your destiny. John Worcester, the Prime Minister of South Africa, was the most vociferous and vehement. But when Mandela came out of the prison after 28 years, amongst the first questions that the newspaper people asked, they said, Mr. Mandela, what do you think of John Worcester? Mandela said, he's a decent man, and he walked off. He did not have a single bad word about the guy who jailed him and punished him and was trying to kill him. I am asking you, we belong to a much more glorious culture. And I'm asking you, just forgive your relatives, your family members. I'm not asking you to go across the globe. The people who are closest to you are your closest allies. Forgive and move ahead. Wipe the slate clean. When you have the power to do that, then you will be able to find a place to go ahead and become much better. So, nullify. When you can nullify, then you will find a place that conflicts won't be there to hurt you again and again. What Ram does, after his entire 14 years, he comes to Kaikeyi in Ayodhya. And he bows down to Kaikeyi, and Ram says, Mother, were it not for you, I would have not discovered the love of my father, that he could not live without me. Were it not for you, I would have not discovered the sacrifice for Bharat, for he could not rule without me. Were it not for you, I would not have discovered the devotion of Lakshman, for he could not breathe without me. Were it not for you, I would not have discovered the loyalty of Sita, for she could not think without me. And were it not for you, I would have not discovered the enmity of Ravan, for he could not sleep without me. Thank you, Mother, for making my life special. He not only swept the board clean, he not only forgave and forgot, he shows us the way that conflicts do not beat you down, they build you up. Conflicts never beat you down, but they build you up. Once there was a boy, he loved butterflies. And he left like taking care of butterflies. Butterflies goes through 4 stages: the eggs, the caterpillar, the pupa chrysalis, and the winged butterfly. Every time the first pupa or chrysalis broke open, the little boy saw that these butterflies inside took almost 1 day pushing and pressing with their wings to come out. He felt this conflict was hurting them. The moment the first chrysalis broke, the boy with his 2 fingers would break open the chrysalis to solve the conflict of the butterflies. Those butterflies whose chrysalis the boy broke did not gain strength in their wings, could never fly. So all the conflict that they were facing were building their wings to soar in the skies. Any conflict that you face is going to build you up, not beat you down. And if you remember that, some of the best things that you can design come from this. So my request is that all these conflicts could be there. Even your shortcomings. Does anybody know that Bruce Lee, one of his left leg was 1 inch shorter. Joe Himes, who was a student of Bruce Lee, never knew. And when he was old, Bruce Lee asked him to kick above his head, and that man said, "No, Bruce Lee, I can't do it, my age." He said, what's age? What's the limitation of age? He said, "But it's my age." That's when Bruce Lee confessed to him. He said, "Hardly the world knows my left leg is 1 inch shorter." He said, "I've never let anybody know, but because of that, I could pivot well. I designed kicks that would reach farther because of his limitation." He said, "You don't even know that right from a young child, I'm wearing contact lenses." Bruce Lee was short-sighted. So I designed a fighting system which was close combat. You would always bring people across. You understand? Redesign the world according to your shortcomings, and conflicts will not remain. I am just asking you, there are ways of moving ahead. Don't sulk. Don't cry. There is enough water in this earth. You don't need to add a few more drops. I am telling you that if you rise, then even your shortcomings will be blessings. In Uganda, in 1970s, Idi Amin had a bad dream. 500,000 people were affected. 80,000 Asians, many Indians in 30 or 40,000 were sent off as refugees to England, India, Canada, and all other places. All these rich people who owned big businesses, including Madhwaniji, giant, atyar overnight, if you are expelled from India, penniless, homeless, what a shock. All these people arrived in England. Biggest conflict of their lives. Suddenly you are reduced as resourceless, homeless, penniless, hopeless, and useless. You feel. They arrived in England. And I want to tell you, they are the same people. From the tens of refugees, they have become multi-millionaires on the soil of England because they persisted. And our London temple that has been built by the refugees from Uganda who came down penniless, and they have gifted the whole country one of the best temples in the world. Conflicts will remain, but that doesn't stop you doing some superhuman, super valuable work. You should remain. Don't think that world ends because you decide to. God has put you on this earth for a higher purpose. And if you understand, we all know that Gandhiji attempted to commit suicide at the age of 12. If he had succeeded, it would have been a different story for India. I'm saying our freedom struggle would have gone a roadblock. We all know that Martin Luther King tried to commit suicide twice, 7 and 12. He loved his grandmother so much. And he jumped out of the window. But because he survived, the African Americans got a voice and freedom. We all know Maxim Gorky. He shot himself in the lungs to end his life at the age of 21. But because he didn't die, he produced some of the best literatures that we can see. We all know that H.G. Wells wrote to his teacher that he wants to end his life because he feels so useless. And the teacher said, "I always knew you wrote very well in English and became one of the finest authors of the world." I'm telling you, At a given time, you might feel useless. But remember, God has designed you for a special purpose on this earth. You may not remember the messages of Ramayana. But the Ramayana has a big secret which I'll leave you with. And the big secret is, when Naradji meets Valyo Lutaro, the robber, who can't understand Ramayana, do you think he'll understand all this stuff of insights? Do you think he'll know what conflict is despite the fact he created them? He won't know. He was a totally illiterate tribal. The only thing he had, he trusted Narad because he found out that nobody would share his sins. You don't have an excuse કે સ્વામી મારા ઘરને જમાડવું હોય ને એટલે મારે corruption કરવું પડે. Corruption won't be shared. When you go to jail, your family won't. I'm telling you the truth. So don't try and shift your responsibilities. Accountability and responsibility. Naradji made him accountable, Valyo, and he made him responsible. Then he gave him the mantra of Ram. Simply chanting the name of Ram and trust in a sadhu transform Valyo the robber into Valmiki the sage. The biggest challenge and conflict you and me may face is self-transformation. Remember, we always want to be someone else. And we always want to be somewhere else. અત્યારે કેટલાને થતું હશે અહીંયા ઘરે ગયો તો આમ થાય, forget it, be here. We always want to be somewhere else and we always want to be someone else. Naradji showed the path to Valmiki, that with the faith in God and also with faith in sadhu, you can achieve the ultimate transformation. In 1990, 12th April, in Bhavnagar, I'm giving you facts because it's nothing just deep down, it's facts in our time. 44 villages gathered together, 33 from Odarka and 11 from Kukkad. These villages, rural villages, had been fighting for over 200 years. Because of a family feud, just Saurashtra thai ne. You know, one family kills somebody else from the other family, then their villages, then... So these 44 villages were at war. For how many years? Last 200 years. The British have a mention that they tried to broker peace, could not. Krishna Kumar Singh, he tried, he could not. Everybody had failed. The hatred had gone so much, they never went to each other's villages, they never married. They used to say they never even took cigarettes from each other. That's, cigarette is, don't say I'm advocating it, but still. But say they refused to take cigarettes from each other and they refused to drink water from each other's well. Apaya, that's the word. For more than 200 years. Pramukh Swami went there. With God in front. He started calling all the leaders and first he said, identify. Your conflict is 200 years old, don't bring it now. Then he simplified. The people who killed your forefathers are none of these people. Simplified. Then he rectified. That stop swearing and hurting and stop creating martyr stones. Every village had martyr stones. Padya. So they always remember, oh, my forefathers have died, so let me kill one. They have more, I have less. Mathematics. So this is how war is. This is how conflict is. Why conflicts go on? I'm just saying on the side. Why conflicts never end? Because when the other guy is telling you something, you are always rehearsing what you have to say. You don't listen. Why conflicts never get solved? When your wife is shouting at you, you are already preparing an answer. So you are not listening. So you answer something totally out of the context and it explodes. So I am trying to tell you, Swami first identified. Then he simplified. Then he rectified. Then he magnified that, look, you have no problem. You can rise beyond this conflict. Then he asked them to unify. He created a ceremony where we brought in waters from 44 wells of 44 villages. Poured it in one gado. Then he pacified. He said, look, accept the situation. This has happened. 110 people have died. They have died. So he took that water, gave each one a cup to drink. Exemplified. Unless you take it in, unless you take the mantra which Valyo the robber did, he could not change. They all drank. Then he removed all the martyr stones from all 44 villages, so this hatred would not spring back again. This is how he solved the conflict of Appaya. It began with the family, it entered the society, and it continued into the country. Unless you do all this stuff with the name of God, nothing can take care of itself. So all I ask this evening, in conclusion, all I ask, that the most important thing that we all have to do is first, God has brought you on this earth with a firm resolution. The Kathopanishad says, Etad alambanam shreshtham, etad alambanam param, etad alambanam gnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. If you take God as your support and trust a sadhu who is true, if you take care of your own energies, then you will find a way out of all the maya into heaven. Forget about the little conflicts of this earth. Because God has given the power to every single creature of His creation. For example, the mosquito, machhar, the smallest, negligible creation of God. Okay? Even once Pramukh Swami asked, "Kya Bhagwan ne machhar kem banaya?" I'm just trying to say. So if you and me ask, that's fine. He asked again because I think he must have been harassed by them, whatever the issue was. So it's the most negligible creation of God. But I ask you, has anybody ever seen, even in torrential rain, a dead mosquito? Have you ever imagined, atla machhar nana, heavy rains chale che, how does the machhar survive? Eની પાસે ક્યાં ઘર છે? I can guarantee scientists have done experiments where they've created torrential rains and they've asked the mosquito fly, forced it. And rains are perhaps the biggest conflict for a mosquito. The mathematics says that the speed, the weight and momentum of the raindrop makes the raindrop 10,000 times more in weight than the mosquito. It's like a human being crashing with a truck traveling at 10,000 miles per hour. Okay? And the raindrop is not just one. There are thousands and thousands coming along. Still they say, you will never find a single dead mosquito. Do you know why? First, it has the ability to dodge. But it can't dodge all. So just listen to me, when the raindrop hits a mosquito, instead of resisting it, it goes with the flow. Samjhi gaya? It goes with the flow for about 4 inches, then slowly it slips off. That's an art. You know, don't start fighting instantly, at least 2 hours, listen. You'll find a window to move out. Okay, so it goes with the flow, then within 4 inches it slips out. Okay, and then in 1/100th of a second it returns back to its position. Back up 4 inches. If it gets hit again, the same procedure. 1,000 times, the same procedure. The mosquito has the power first to dodge, second to go with the flow, third to slip off, fourth to be resilient, to get back where it was, and do it 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times. It never feels any conflict. For human comparison, the scientists have said, if you go out in the rain, instead of the raindrops, it's ambassador cars falling. Dub, dub. Try and survive. We won't even get out. Why? Because we think. Because mosquitoes don't think, they survive, and we think we don't survive. It's our own mind that defeats us first before we face a conflict. આપણે એમ જ લાગે ડિવોર્સ તો મરી ગયો, પણ ક્યાં મર્યા છે, જીવીશ, હજુ તો વધારે જીવીશ. I'm trying to tell you, we tend to think it's our own mind working against us because the mosquito doesn't think. I'm not saying. My conclusion, I'll give you 2 little examples before I conclude. My conclusion is, if anybody who can safely cross the relief road in Ahmedabad can face any conflict in this earth. Why? I'll tell you, when you are crossing a road, There's not one formula, it's a new formula every time. Gadi fast hai, I must wait. Slow che, I go. Halfway, oh my God, it's fast, come back. Sometimes get stranded. Sometimes go diagonal. Sometimes walk and then run. Sometimes just harsh bacho. But you do it every day. If you are in conflict, sometimes samajho gadi garam che to wait. Slow che to go fast. If somebody is really upset, then just go diagonal. I am telling you, if God, you cross the road because you don't think much. You do it by intuition. If you start thinking, what's the speed? I don't know the speed. What's the momentum? Will the driver put the accelerator faster? Will he brake? Or will a badat come in the middle? Or will a dog shout? You can't cross a road in India. Stop thinking and start living. You are the center of your world. You would be the center point who creates, generates, or dissipates conflicts. One man who was a patient, he comes to the doctor and he says, doctor, I'm really sick, I'm hurting. Doctor said, what's your problem? He said, my whole body hurts from head to toe. Doctor said, what type of a disease is that? He hurts. He said, show me. He said, it hurts a lot. Oh, bapre, bahut dukhe che. This hurts a lot, this hurts a lot, this knee. Everywhere he touched and pointed, he was shouting, my God, it's painful, painful. Doctor checked him out. There's nothing wrong. And he keeps saying, oh, this hurts, shoulder hurts. Every time, everywhere he touched, it was hurting him. Then the doctor took his entire MRI and X-ray. He found that he had a fracture in the finger. If you have a fractured finger, everything you touch, everybody you meet will hurt. You have to understand that the fracture lies within you. You must cure that. And exactly opposite. If you have a fractured personality, you will create conflicts and you will never be able to resolve conflicts everywhere and everyone you meet. But if you have an enlightened personality like Lord Ram, like Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and then you will never have conflict. So remember the last thing I want to say, that once God, He summoned His entire creation. And He said, if anyone has a conflict here, please tell me. Night, dressed in dark cloaks and in silver lining, she came up to God and said, God, I have a problem. God said, what? He said, I am constantly being harassed. I am stalked. I am constantly being pushed out by the day. God says, what? He said, sir, God, my Lord, the sun, he follows me where I go. He stalks me. He destroys me. And he hurts me. God said, that shouldn't happen in this creation. There should not be a conflict. He says, please solve this. God calls in the sun. And God says, son, please, I know you do so much for the people and the living creatures. But there is someone called night. You keep harassing her. You keep destroying her. You keep stalking her. And the son says, excuse me, God, what's night? God says, night. He says, I'm sorry, my Lord. What do you mean by night? God says, night. She complains about you. Then the son says, God, please bring night before me. I am ready to apologize. And God turns around and night has disappeared. If you become as enlightened as the sun, you will have conflicts nowhere, never, and never again. Thank you very much.